والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. First of all, I'd like to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving me the tawfiq to come in front of everybody here and participate in this very blessed gathering and say a few words about our honorable Sheikh, our Ustad, our greatest inspiration, Hazrat Allama Sheikh Noor ghorpuri rahmatullahi alayh. And it's a great blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has enabled us all to get together in memory of our Sheikh Ustad Allama Noor ghorpuri rahmatullahi alayh. And I hope, inshallah, and I pray that just as we have all gathered together with unity, with love, through this connection of Hazrat Allama Noor ghorpuri rahmatullahi alayh, as my honorable Ustad Hazrat Maulana Ronak Sahib Hafidhullah mentioned just before me, reminding us that in order to have this connection with Sheikh al-Hadith Allama Noor ghorpuri rahmatullahi alayh, we should try to live our lives like him, and how he would give so much importance to the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and specifically praying Salah in Jama'at. We should all also try to implement that, act upon that, and inshallah through this connection of Hazrat, we all are able to carry on serving the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with this unity, with this cooperation, with this kind of leadership. Just like we all accepted Hazrat Allama Noor ghorpuri rahmatullahi alayh as our leader, as our inspiration, as our teacher, and we obeyed him. Likewise, those who are after him, his senior students, his successors, and those who have taken his responsibilities, his positions, we should also in the same way respect those positions, respect those connections, and be obedient to them, and with cooperation, with unity, as a jama'at, carry on doing the service of deen. I have been given this topic to speak about the status of Allama Noor ghorpuri rahmatullahi alayh as a muhaddith, his status, his position in the science of hadith. What can I say about Allama Noor ghorpuri rahmatullahi alayh? We've all heard from many scholars before him. He was not just a muhaddith. He was an imam of this century, of this 20th century. He was an imam. An imam is someone who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts for revival work, who has expertise in every single field. From the time of the Salaf, there were many muhaddithin, there were many fuqaha, many mufassirin. But what gave Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah the Imam of the Ummah is because of this jami' expertise, this jami'iyyat, being an expert in every single field, from Arabic adab to fiqh to tarikh to usul, hadith, everything. And same goes with all those who have been known in this ummah as the imams of this ummah. In his book written by Hazrat Allama Mandur Nu'mani rahimahullah, he talks about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes the revival work, tajdeedi work from certain people. And he mentions, if we look back in history, we see that those who have been great influential figures in either throughout the whole world or in a particular country, particular location, and who have done some revival work, whose work have carried on and he mentioned a number of names, right from Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, Imam al-Bukhari, rahimahullah, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, all the way up to Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, etc. And he says, you will see from those people whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had taken a revival work in a particular time and in a particular location, they were all jami' shakhsiyat. They were not just focused on Arabic language. They were not just focused on politics, on siyasa. They were not just focused on tafsir or hadith or tasawwuf, but rather they were experts in every aspect of deen. And they were the real warathatul anbiya, real successors of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And just like our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not an expert in just one particular field, he was a master in every aspect of life, in every single field and every single science. And we see the Sahaba ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in. You see them in the battlefield like they are the greatest warriors in the world. You see them in the night at times of prayer. They are like the greatest saints in the world. You see them narrating hadith and explaining and teaching like they are the greatest intellectuals and professors in the world. They were all comprehensive. And they got this through the suhbah. And this comprehensiveness of deen, you'll only get it if you stay in the company of the rightful warathatul anbiya. So Allama Nuruddin Ghorpuri rahmatullahi alayhi was an imam of that nature, who was comprehensive personality. Now coming back, sticking to my topic of his position as a muhaddith in the science of hadith. In order to appreciate and understand the status of a person in a particular field, one needs to look at their service, their contribution in that particular field, or what other giants and experts and masters of that field whom the entire world have accepted as pioneers and masters of the field have said about this person. This is two great criteria of knowing and estimating and understanding the status of a person, their position in that particular field. Other than that, in terms of how much knowledge a person has, you cannot measure that. There's no measurement to measure how much knowledge and understanding and tafaqquh a person has inside him. And name and fame is no criteria to prove the status and expertise of a person. Their acceptance in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it was about name and fame, etc., and influence, then Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah would not have been the greatest imam of his time, but rather his opponents, who were admired and given the name and the platforms and the media coverage and the attention from the governments, etc., they would have been the greatest imams. But even though the whole world, the government might not accept someone, they might not have the media coverage, if they meet these criteria, then they will be regarded as the imams of those fields. And another way is through the students. How many students they have left behind. Another way of service in that particular field is the books that they have written in that particular field. So based on that, and the authenticity, reliability of a person, that's what really determines the status of the person. So in terms of Allama Nuruddin Ghorpuri rahmatullahi alayhi, in terms of his reliability, his authenticity, his thiqah, there's no one in his time could be more authentic, more reliable in the ilm al-hadith than he. Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, according to his criteria of thiqah, tawthiq, was mulazama. In order for a muhaddith to be authentic, reliable in hadith, he must have had mulazama of another thiqah muhaddith. I.e., that he shouldn't be like today, it happens, very common. Any person who's probably had degrees in all sorts of other fields, He's never even learned to read the Quran correctly or stayed in the company of a alim, etc. He's finished his degrees, had his job in his bank, etc. And then all of a sudden he becomes a little bit religious, he learns a little bit of Arabic, then he goes to a few different parts of the world and he goes and attends some maqra, some riwayah, and then he just gets ijazah from so-and-so sheikh, and he comes back and now he's a muhaddith, and now he starts teaching hadith, and he claims he's got ijazah from so-and-so hadith, but really he hasn't even had the slightest fragrance of that muhaddith, because he only sat there one day maqra, and he paid for the certificate, and now he's got the certificate. According to Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, this is not acceptable. Even though there might have been liqa, but it's not acceptable. There has to be mulazama. Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah, in his Diwan al-Shafi'i, he says this beautiful poem, أخي لن تنال العلم إلا بستة سأنبئك مخبرا ببياني ذكاء وحرص واجتهاد وبلغة نصيحة أستاذ وطول زماني. That brother, you will never ever gain knowledge except with 6 things, which I will explain to you. ذكاء, intelligence. Hirsun, having the zeal, the passion. Wajtihadun, sacrifice and effort. Wabilugatin, and knowing the language properly. Nasihatu ustadin wa tulu zamani, i.e. the khidmat of the ustad, the attention of the ustad, the dua of the ustad, wa tulu zamani, and spending long period in the company of a sheikh. And in this respect, in this day and age, in this century, you will find very less shuyukh who have had longer company with the greatest giants and the greatest muhaddith of this century, of his time, than Allama Nuruddin Ghorpuri rahmatullahi alayhi. As the previous Allama Zubair Ahmad Ansari hafidhahullah mentioned, right from his childhood, his father himself was a great alim. He stayed in his company. Then from an early age, stayed in the company of one of the most senior and most prominent and most renowned successors and students of Hazrat Allama Sayyid Hussain Ahmad Madani rahmatullahi alayhi, Sheikh Bagar Sheikh Sahib. He stayed in his company. And then after that, he carried on in the company of Shaykh al-Islam, Qutb al-Alam, Hazrat Allama Hussain Ahmad Madani rahmatullahi alayhi, and this mulazamat. And by the time he passed away, at the end of the 20th century, he passed away in 2005. During his time, in those last years, I don't know of anybody who was more senior in age and who was a student of Hazrat Allama Hussain Ahmad rahmatullahi alayhi, of that caliber, of that level, other than Hazrat Allama Nuruddin Ghorpuri. Throughout the world, I personally do not see anybody of his status, of his expertise, and his influence, piety, etc. During the end of the 20th century, amongst the khulafa and the successors of Allama Hussain Ahmad Madani rahmatullahi alayhi, then Allama Nuruddin Ghorpuri rahmatullahi alayhi. So this shows his position, his status in hadith. And now coming to his expertise, just look at his students. That will show you what a great muhaddith he was. Yes, he didn't write a book. If he wanted to write a book, he could have wrote volumes of books of the commentary of hadith. But that shows his sincerity, and the sincerity of many of the other great ulama of Bangladesh, who were amongst the greatest scholars and the greatest students, the best students of Darul Ulum Deoband, where there were hundreds of students from all over the world, who later on have written commentaries in Arabic language and so many different books. But we see our mashayikh in Bangladesh, who were the students of Ashraf Ali Thanwi rahmatullah alayhi, Rashid Ahmad Gangohi rahmatullah alayhi, Madani rahmatullah alayhi, etc. When they come back, they have not written books until maybe later in their life when they've settled down. This is their sincerity, because Bangladesh was going through crisis, poverty, famine. After the independence of India, then followed by civil war, independence of Bangladesh, and then after all this other corruption, there was so much ignorance. Majority of the Ummah population cannot even read. So if they sat there writing commentaries in Arabic language, which not a single person from Bangladesh would be able to read, who would be saving these people from shirk? Who would be saving these people from worshipping the foreigners and the Brits and the Indians and all sorts of other people? Yet they sacrificed all this. They sacrificed their name, their fame, etc. And they went door to door, houses to houses, and guiding the ordinary people and reviving the ilm al-hadith orally. So Allama Nuruddin rahmatullahi alayhi, if he wanted to write a book on hadith, he would have written great commentaries. But instead, he went door to door, house to house, and mosque to mosque, and spreading the teachings of Islam on one side. Amongst the awam, and the amount of influence and love and respect he had amongst the general public. I don't even know any world leaders, politicians, who have that much respect and love and recognition amongst the awam. And on the other side, he was producing great muhaddithin, that almost all his students were great scholars. And his khulafa were all amongst the greatest muhaddithin and experts of hadith in Bangladesh. And I'll just give one example of Hazrat Allama Uddeen rahmatullahi alayhi. Subhanallah. What a great scholar he was. Before I met him in first time, I think it was in 2004 or 2005. Prior to that, alhamdulillah, I was very fortunate, privileged to spend in the company of Allama Nuruddin ghorpuri rahmatullahi alayhi, in his house, in my house. I went to Hajj with him, attended many of his talks, listened to his durus of hadith, etc. And obviously, I had made up mind, there's no one greater in the world, from my knowledge, than Allama Nuruddin ghorpuri rahmatullahi alayhi. And lawla a'anani Allahu bi Sheikh Nuruddin ghorpuri rahmatullahi alayhi, lakuntu ka ahqari nas. Like Imam Shafi rahimahullah said, if Allah didn't aid me and support me with Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, I would have been like a normal person. And I say, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had not guided me and inspired me with the likes of Sheikh Nuruddin ghorpuri rahmatullah, I wouldn't have been like ordinary person, would have been the worst of all people. And through his inspiration, alhamdulillah, Allah gave the love, the jazba, the understanding, the importance of serving the deen, serving the Quran and hadith, went to madrasa, etc. Then when I met Sheikh Ghiyafuddin al-Balyawi rahimahullah, I was fascinated. In his speeches, it's nothing other than hadith and hadith. And he was such a great scholar. Right from his early student days, he says that he had a very great connection with Hazrat Mushaisa Bayanpuri rahmatullahi alayhi, who was one of the most renowned successors of Madin rahmatullahi alayhi. And just to understand what caliber, what status the successors of Madin rahmatullahi in Bangladesh had, I will narrate one incident of Maulana Zakaria rahmatullahi alayhi. He says that after Sheikh al-Islam Hussain Ahmad rahmatullahi alayhi got involved into politics in Jamiat Ulama, independence of India, he asked him, you're so into politics now, where is your responsibility, amanat, that your ustad Hazrat Rashid Ahmad Gangohi rahmatullahi alayhi had left with you in terms of tasawwuf? You know, I don't see you doing anything about this. He said, then he pulled out letters from the mashayikh and the shuyukh and his farighin and khulafa of Bengal. And Zakaria rahmatullah says, as I was reading, tears was coming out of my eyes, and I said, Subhanallah, forgive me. Wallahi, you have fulfilled all your rights, all your amanat. And he said, I was fascinated looking at the ahwal and the hal and the sacrifice and the status and the work that these khulafa of Madin rahmatullah in the works of tasawwuf and the halat in Bengal. And Bagar Sheikh was one of his greatest khulafa. Bayanpuri rahmatullah alayhi was one of his greatest khulafa. So this Ghiyafuddin rahmatullah alayhi says, when I was a student, whilst I was a student of ghorpuri rahmatullah alayhi, I would keep a close connection with Bayanpuri rahmatullah alayhi, and I used to write letters to him about all sorts of masail, and he used to reply back with so much dalail and adillah. And then when he came and he said, once for a joke, let me see what he replies to this. He said, هل العالم بالدوران أو الشمس والقمر بالدوران. There's this philosophical debate whether the earth is going around the sun or the sun is going around the earth, etc. And he says, Subhanallah, I did not even expect him to give a reply. And a whole article of good number of pages he had written back in reply, quoting this muhaddith, this faqih, and this scientist. And I was just baffled, shocked. And then when Bayan Rahmatullah alayhi, he came to Ghorpuri for the first time, and this incident of Ghorpuri, Sahib Rahmatullah, he mentioned himself that when we were having our jalsa, I think it was the first jalsa in Ghorpuri, Ghorpuri Rahmatullah went directly in the house of Bayan Rahmatullah to go and invite him. And Bayan Rahmatullah he said, when Ghorpuri Rahmatullah came, just like Imam Malik Rahmatullah, when Imam Shafi Rahmatullah came and stayed in his house, he told his daughter that today in our house we have a great scholar, a great Imam of this Ummah, a Wali of Allah, so prepare good food for him. In the same way, Bayan Rahmatullah told his wife that today in our house is a great saint of Allah, great Wali of Allah, muhaddith and Imam of the Ummah here, and prepare good food, etc. And then Bayan Rahmatullah came to Ghorpuri, and soon as he saw uddeen Rahmatullah, he said, Ya bunay, inni ara fika nuran, fala tutfi'hu bil ma'asi. Same words that Imam Malik rahimahullah had said to Imam Shafi rahimahullah. He said, oh son, I see in you a light of knowledge, so do not extinguish it with ma'asi. And this is Sheikh uddeen Rahmatullah. When he came to England, stayed in his company, subhanallah, a replica of Sheikh Nuruddin Ghorpuri Rahmatullah a total replica of Sheikh Nuruddin Ghorpuri Rahmatullah. And then I asked him one day, now I understand why Sheikh Nuruddin Ghorpuri Rahmatullah has so much popularity, so much name, etc. It's because he was very lucky to have great students like you. He says, what are you talking about? We are nothing. And we were nothing. No one even knew us in Muminshing if it was not because of Sheikh Nuruddin Ghorpuri Rahmatullah. And when I went to Muminshing, I saw how much influence and recognition Sheikh Nuruddin Ghorpuri Rahmatullah has. Every single person, from the coach drivers to rickshaw drivers, everybody knows him as the Sileti Huzur. Not just in Balja village or Fulfur, all the in the Muminshing town center, average rickshaw drivers and coach drivers know him. So look at his student, such a great muhaddith. This is all the barakah of Sheikh Nuruddin Ghorpuri Rahmatullahi alayhi. His special, unique way of teaching hadith was just fascinating. It's just uncomparable. It's just a karamat. That the way he used to teach, every single Kyampuri, Huzur Mukhlisur Rahman, Nurul Islam, Bishnat, all of them, great scholars. And once we organized a talk with Sheikh uddeen Rahmatullah in Badr State Masjid in Arabic language, where I invited all the local Moroccans, Algerians, Somalians, Tunisians, all the Arabs that I knew. And alhamdulillah, Masjid was packed. And I have this friend, he's a really renowned student of one of the most senior and greatest scholars of Morocco, Sheikh Abdul Salam Yassin. And he said, Subhanallah, I was fascinated that a Bangladeshi person who's never ever been to an Arab country in his life, apart from once when he went for Hajj the first time, is speaking such fluent Arabic that it's reminding me of my Sheikh Abdul Salam Yassin word by word. And that's how eloquent he was, an expert of hadith he was. And these are some of the students. So, Ghorpuri Rahmatullah alayhi, what a great muhaddith he was of this zamana, of this time, and the way he would teach hadith, etc. It was so fascinating, very jami, in a very comprehensive way. I've listened to some of the hadith, and from my experience, very less people in the world I have come across whose dars is so comprehensive and so beautiful. So inshallah, I pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps his fuyud, his ulum, going until the day of Judgment, and his khulafa, his students, etc. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts them, and also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts this madrasa and our madrasa, like your brother Mufti Wahidur Rahman mentioned. We started a humble madrasa in the name of Sheikh Nuruddin, in the name of Nuruddin Academy, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala request everybody to make dua. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives this madrasa qubuliyat and acceptance as well, especially because of this nisbat with madrasa Sheikh Nuruddin Ghorpuri, wa akhiru da'wana, and alhamdulillah.